Sometimes the best way to cure the disease is to cut out the cancer. We highlighted one nuisance property in West Charlotte last month that's been poisoning a neighborhood for years, attracting drugs, prostitution, and violent crime. Now that house is gone.
Everything from fighting with chairs, shovels, bricks, fighting amongst one another.
Don Ferguson worked across the street from the house at 3120 Tuckasegee Road. He and his co-workers saw it all through the years. They sent WCCB Charlotte video of the craziness.
Police reports are just unbelievable, the amount of times that police officers have been here in the last couple of years.
We actually pull the numbers, and in the last year we had over 100 calls for service just at this house, primarily dealing with prostitution, disturbances, fights, and drug-related charges. And it's right here in the street. It's in the middle of all these houses. In the neighborhood, they were tired of it.
A week ago, there was a house here. Now all that's left is that one brick on this property that was a thorn in the side for both CMPD and the community around it. A laundry list of crimes taking place here. You can still see some of the remnants. Used condoms and several spent shotgun shells. A 13-month odyssey ending in a win for the residents of Enderley Park, local businesses, and CMPD. The house was finally condemned by Charlotte Code Enforcement, the demolition approved by City Council.
To not have this property here is huge for them. And because of the drain on us for manpower, the amount of time we were out here, it's going to be, I think, a positive thing for everybody involved.
This house was an absolute nuisance to this Enderley Park community, and the residents who really brought it to our attention, helped us along the way, were a huge support for us. And I really want to tell them thank you, because it's really because of them that this got started and now it's gone.
Officer Myers told me that CMPD responded to 216 disturbance calls on that former house at 3120 Tuckasegee Road in the last 2 years alone.
CCB Charlotte's Will Kennedy is in Florence, South Carolina. Will.
Courtney, we were hoping to make it to the coast and be there when Hurricane Matthew made landfall in Myrtle Beach. We didn't get that far because the roads were shut off. We've been talking about that, the flooding out there. We're at a gas station in downtown Florence, one of the few that's still open. This area still has power. Much of the rest of Florence has been without power for almost 12 hours now. This gas station, though, did get hit by Matthew. What you're seeing next to me is the awning that was over these gas pumps earlier today. It collapsed. There's shattered glass on the ground, all these pieces of aluminum, the structure itself. All around you. We've seen tons of this as we've traveled some of the highways here in inland South Carolina today. Dangerous conditions out there. The wind was whipping 60 miles an hour plus earlier today. We saw a man get hit by a piece of debris like this. Some of this earlier today. He was lucky. He walked away, actually dragged that sign away with him. We can tell you, though, this in Florence. Here in Florence County, there's a 7 o'clock curfew, but people, as you can see, are still out at the gas stations. People are still trying to find food tonight because they've been without power for so long. I talked to a state trooper here just a few minutes ago as he pulled up to get gas, and he told me that emergency responders, they are stretched so thin right now, they are only responding to the most dire and severe emergencies. That's going to be the case through the night and into tomorrow. We're not sure when people are going to be able to get back to Myrtle Beach or to their homes in Charleston. That's yet to be announced, but we will keep you updated on that. And again, these roads out here are just too stretched right now. Too much water on the roads, and the wind still whipping up a little bit tonight. We'll be keeping an eye on it for you. Let's check in, though, now with Chief Meteorologist Greg Arbrecht.
WCCB News at 10 anchor Will Kennedy is live in Lumberton tonight, which is one of the hardest hit areas. Will?
Morgan, we're literally at the end of the road here in Lumberton. This is 5th Street, normally runs into South Lumberton. It is underwater. This is a scene we're seeing all over the place here. Roads still flooded. You've got schools that are canceled. You've got businesses closed. Lots of those schools are still acting as shelters with hundreds of people in them. And I can tell you what, right now, the power is out. This was a nursing home behind me that has been evacuated. No lights on, but there are still people in there. No running water. And rescue crews are still searching for people trapped in South Lumberton.
It's completely underwater, 8-foot, 10-foot deep. Dead bodies floating around.
Lumberton, North Carolina is still in shock, still grieving, still underwater. Hundreds of people evacuated from their homes are still in shelters or staying with friends and family. William Davis stayed in his house until Monday, until the waters forced his family out.
She storms before, but this time it hit home. And when it hit home, it's a serious thing.
Even those with homes intact are struggling. Businesses are shuttered, roads closed, and the water is toxic.
We were 6 days without power. We're now under 4 days of no water.
Many are glad just to be alive, to have made it out, but they fear the death toll will climb once the water recedes.
Honest to goodness, I didn't think I was going to make it out. I was soaking wet. It was still raining. We had pine trees falling all around it.
Despite the death and destruction, this community is pulling together.
We get some waters and stuff.
Ashley Haywood is a Lumberton native. She's helping her neighbors with the bare necessities.
Everybody is getting together. Despite that they don't have water, they don't have lights, they're helping each other, and that's what it's all about. And if anyone outside of the community can come in and bring in the resources, contact anyone that you know, and just bring in water.
Rescue crews have come from all over. There is a swiftwater rescue team from the Charlotte Fire Department here. They say they'll get back to trying to get to those people. As many as 1,000 people trapped still in South Lumberton in the morning. I talked to a woman earlier today who said she's been on her 6th day now without running water. All she wants at this point is to be able to take a shower. There are some long days ahead here, and we'll have more from Lumberton coming up for you in a few minutes. But right now, let's check in on your forecast with WCCB Charlotte meteorologist Michelle Rattel.
The Watch with Will Kennedy.
Crime scene investigation. The real-life career is exploding thanks to all the attention from TV shows and movies. But the men and women who work for CMPD's CSI unit tell me reality is a long way from the Hollywood glamour. In tonight's Watch, I'm taking you behind the crime scene tape. We all know the initials and the myriad of TV shows and movies that focus on the science of CSI. Crime fighting with a serious Hollywood spin. There's a CSI Charlotte, too, but this version is reality. Less glitz, more grime.
I drive a big white Chevy van. I don't drive a Hummer.
The TV shows like to make it seem like it's 1 or 2, 3 people doing everything, and that's just not the case.
We don't drive Hummers. We don't solve a crime in 5 minutes.
And the smells, you know, because when you watch it on TV, there's no smells included.
I wear a uniform. I don't wear heels and a pantsuit to go arrest people. And I don't even arrest people. I'm just there to collect the evidence and help put the pieces together.
And that's exactly what these pros do. 34 people on staff. They're not officers, don't carry a gun, and they don't arrest people. But they do help put bad people behind bars, working with CMPD detectives to solve all kinds of cases.
We have questions about certain items that were picked up, certain things that were collected. We go down, we talk with the investigators, figure out what they saw, how the things worked, if they noticed anything additional.
And the men and women of CMPD CSI are highly trained. Most have bachelor's degrees in forensics. Many have master's degrees in the field as well. They take pictures at scenes.
I'll process the outside of the car, and then I'll go in. I'm going to remove the airbags and see if there's anything else inside the car I can print.
They dust for fingerprints.
I'm looking for fingerprints just holding light, my flashlight here at an oblique angle. Sometimes you can see fingerprints showing up from there.
They collect evidence of all sorts.
24/7, 365 round the clock. We have 5 shifts that cover the span of the day.
CMPD CSI has worked more than 9,000 cases so far this year, collecting more than 34,000 pieces of evidence. That evidence is taken back to the office, processed, and then stored in property control with more than 320,000 items on hand. Housed there while investigations continue until it's time to go to court or until a convicted criminal gets out of jail. The one place the TV shows and real CSI do reflect the technology.
We have 2 crime scopes. It's an alternate light source that we will use to either enhance bruises or injuries that are already visible to the human eye, or injuries that have either not come up yet, not surfaced, or have started to fade away.
The vehicles are filled with much of the latest CSI tech and tools.
This is going to spin 360 around in circles. And the camera right here is going to also do the 360, and it captures everything up and down as well as around.
Including a device that records 360-degree views of crime scenes.
The blood droplets in the trail that lead up to where our mannequin is.
To build models, helping investigators recreate what happened, leading to more arrests and convictions.
They're the ones that are solving the cases. They're the ones getting the evidence, lifting those fingerprints, taking the photography that can be presented in court. It's a vital part of the investigation. Without them, we wouldn't have many cases to be made.
I've had the chance to go behind the tape with CMPD CSI for homicides and some death investigations. Tomorrow night, we're going to talk about the toll that dealing with death.
Let's continue our team coverage with Will Kennedy. He's live in Marion, South Carolina. Will.
Courtney, we are here near Reedy Creek, and we left Charlotte this morning, Chris Kymick, my photographer, and I, trying to make it to Myrtle Beach when Hurricane Matthew would be making shore there. I'm going to show you behind me. This is what the creek has done. It has come over its banks, spilled over this bridge on South Highway 501, which leads people to Myrtle Beach and North Myrtle Beach. That is a Salvation Army Disaster Services truck stuck right there in the water. It tried to make it through just a few minutes ago. We have seen people throughout the day trying to make it through standing water all along our trip, but especially right here. Let's take a look at some video that we shot earlier today. We have seen cars stuck in the water. Sometimes people have, Good Samaritans have jumped out to try to help people push those cars out. Cars stalled in the water. We've seen cars covered up in water today. A very dangerous situation, and this is because of all the rain that we've seen. I talked to Chief Meteorologist Greg Armbrecht earlier. He told me 10 to 15 inches in this area near Marion, and that's along through Florence as well. We were near Darlington earlier today. All that rain, swelling creeks, swelling rivers. And we talked to some people at a gas station near this spot where I am right now, and they told us it's just not worth it. Take a listen.
That's insane. You know, they're putting their lives in jeopardy. They're going to be putting the first responders' lives in jeopardy to go pull them out. Don't try to cross it. Simple enough. You know, you got to be smart about it.
It was pretty hairy a little bit, especially with the water coming across the road. And it just, you know, it wasn't safe, so I said it. And then plus, too, it shut my truck down, too, as well, so I had to go ahead and pull it on over.
We have seen winds 60 to 70 miles an hour. Take a look at this video. A piece of metal siding off the top of a gas station hits a guy as Chris was shooting that video. Fortunately, he was all right, but that could have been a totally different situation. We have seen in the town of Marion nearby trees into houses. The tree that was on this house, I went in and talked to the couple. They didn't want to be on camera, but they told me they were all okay inside the house. A couple that's lived there for 30 years, they say this is as bad as it's been since Hugo, and everybody remembers that. This car behind me, this Mazda, tried to drive through this water just a few minutes ago. It got stuck. It is stalled out. Lots of people are having to wait on wrecker services that can't get to them. And we will tell you that in Myrtle Beach, 50,000 people are without power right now. The National Guard is not letting people back in. There's a curfew from 6 p.m. to 6 a.m. Out there on the island, and we understand that the pier there has collapsed as well, and we'll be showing you some of that later. We'll also give you more on the flooding and the winds and all that's happened out here today. Courtney?